Welcome to the Exposer. So today will be episode 11 and the finale of exposing PT. The in-depth episode where we expose him for the man that he is, his business, and also exploring the comparisons between himself as Toby Adeboyega and also a famous person called Jim Jones. Stay tuned for that part. Toby Adeboyega, as we said in the beginning, is a man who is very calculated. Someone who even planned the way he would enter this country, even though he supposedly had plans to do what he is doing now in the States and not over here in the UK. He came with intentions of a short-term plan, consisting of actually doing his studies and being a pastor who would eventually return to Nigeria and solidify his earnings into something that would set him up for life. This was his plan, and we can see that this indeed is correct, because now with all the attacks and investigation and stigma being attached to Spac Nation, for him the timing is correct to go. He's already been setting the Nigerian soil for his arrival, even though already helping locals get water and food to eat, which only makes him look better. He's set up a Toby Adeboyega Foundation and has even rebranded Spac Ministries in Nigeria into Spac Nation. And so with all the illicit gains and knowledge acquired over in his side of the world, he is due to disattach himself and basically do less work as he raises up others to continue the fraudulent activities he's engaged in. We cannot let the hype around this organization die out, because it is through our cries that many people have been held accountable. It is through our cries that some people have been able to grasp the courage to leave. And it's through our cries that mainstream media, from The Guardian, The Daily Mail, MTV, and even as late BBC Panorama, has been able to document what really has been happening in order to come up with some sort of understanding that indeed this must cease. He is now been paying Nigerians to paint him and his church in a better light, but despite all of his efforts, nothing is no longer working out. And I believe it is his past sins which are catching up to him, which up until now he has yet repented for, or at least addressed. PT's personal life is not the typical. He doesn't really like to talk too much about his family because he isn't in favour of families. Families, he says, have been a major point in the destruction of the upcoming youth who have potential in life. And so that he will do this is to tell you that your life will only be different and have a meaning if you attend somewhere like Spac Nation, where they say you can gain mentorship, but we have shown evidence out of their mouths that they are not to be trusted and their background in mainstream society will be shunned. So I know many of you guys want to know what PT does in his own personal life when it comes to business. So for the business, he claims to be a property mogul, basically into real estate, where he offers investment into houses for a very large sum of money. And he says this is where his income comes from beside all the gifts he receives from close ones. And we actually have evidence of fake contracts written up which he uses to sell property, but there's no actual house involved once the money has been transferred. And for legal reasons, we cannot visibly show this paperwork. And in addition to this, the victims were actually trying to apply pressure in order to reclaim their lost funds, which PT has been paying back, but very slowly. Which is a tactic which many of them do, including Sam, who would openly give an excuse of his money being locked or frozen with his accountant. Sam openly said on Periscope that he went to get the money that his mother offered for his house and gave it to PT, which is very disrespectful because this is your own mother you're doing this to. PT also gets praised and prayers from people who want nothing but the best for them. But however, the malicious attentions and the unrelenting quest for money seems to be the most important things in their lives. Even an ordained member who left Spac Nation a while ago also has a family member who was ripped off in a deal that they made with PT in the area of real estate. And this caused friction because it was a fake business being pitched, leaving them to fight for their money and for the child who attended Spac at the time, stressed and angry about the situation. This is far worse than the loans because they can be paid back in installments. These type of investment usually are sums of money that one would save up for a long time, and just like that, it's gone. PT does not cut deals, and with them being genuine, it's usually bogus, fraudulent, and it gets laundered elsewhere once attained. The trap houses can also be used as a way of PT to say that he himself has invested into these houses for the youth, and that would make PT more credible for when he goes to conferences to meet different world leaders and people with wealth to encourage them to do business. Little do they know that Spac Nation actually dissociates itself from the financials of these houses, and that each member actually is accountable for where they live. So now let's have a look at the companies that PT has registered online. So as you can see, Toby Adeboyega, total amount on appointments, 1. The company is called SR Capital, and it's dissolved, of course. And then you have him as a director, which he resigned. The company was appointed on the 7th of January 2016, and he resigned on the 25th of March 2017. There's proof of his nationality, country of residence, and the occupation. And now the nature of the business: management of real estate on a fee or contract basis, financial management, other business support service activities not elsewhere classified. So this is the only company that he was registered to online, which was dissolved after a year. So you can see from the screenshots, the business site is now closed. It's something that Spac pitched to be on the Onion with Alex to be the face of. So if Toby claims to not have any business associated to him, then why does he have something in his name? And why does his partner also have something in her name too, registered in Kent, when this is a London-based church? And I've exposed his partner's business on one of the exposing videos of PT, I believe episode 2. I didn't actually show the screenshot of it, but you guys can just type it up on Google and it will show you all the businesses that are under her name. Any businesses that is connected to Spac, he has made sure that it's registered under his wife's name, so that the day that Spac no longer exists, his name will not be attached to any of the downfall in regards to the businesses at Spac. Moving on, what PT does in his spare time is not what a usual pastor does either. For PT, Spac is his main priority, and that is why he's always around the top leaders, instructing them on how to run their fellowships and how to lead a flock in giving seed, and the importance of them setting up a business and submitting it under the Spac nation. PT, to be quite frank with you, doesn't even have an appetite when it comes to food. Funnily enough, he would host parties at his place where everyone would be happy and eating, but not him. People would go out to restaurants, but not him. He's just so fixed on getting money and preparing sermons for SoundCloud and doing Periscope, because for him, it is how he thinks and what he says which will get those in Spac to keep on giving and being a slave for his vision. Clearly, he's a liar in telling us where his wealth comes from. So you guys know and now understand that PT does not have any registered businesses online, anything connected to him. So there's no evidence of where his money comes from. So today we all know that it comes from the money being raised at Spac, something he has denied, which of course makes him a liar.
Got a call and they said, you know what? This person in the next 1, 2, blah 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 years, maybe the president of so. It needs you. It needs you to lead Spac Nation in that continent, to change young people in that continent. It needs you. It can't do it without you. And he has the biggest chance. Can you steer a movement that will change that continent? I'm not going to say what country or what continent. Can you change that continent? It needs you, and it needs you now in order to plan. So I'm thinking, nah, he has to raise another pastor. It's difficult. He said, not you, sir. But today, seriously now. How am I gonna be the first Zimbabwe president in the first Zimbabwe in Nigeria government? Of course you would be if I'm talking about Nigeria. I don't know if so. Spac Nation is not Spac without you. So over the next 12 months, I'm gonna be working hard to change that now. Can you help the Caribbeans in this country first? My dear Pastor Bishop, 110%. That's my desire. That's my desire. Okay, well, just give me heads up. Give you heads up. Okay, you have heads up now, my sister, my daughter, my friend. So this morning I put the title as I began to discuss these things. As I begin to discuss these things, these thoughts, my friend began to speak these things to me, which is completely different from what I've said, guys.
So in this short clip, you guys just saw a man who's trying to deliver a message, but he's very uncomfortable while he attempts to deliver that message. So he mentioned a president of a country, probably Nigeria, that he's claiming phoned him and said that Spac Nation is needed in that country because of everything that they're doing. So he's saying he needs to know if Spac Nation can remain a movement in that country. So he really needs to know how everyone feels. So this is a technique that he would use just to get a reaction out of his members to see how they feel about going overseas. And the most disturbing part of that video is the comments, and you can see the reaction of his members. Some are saying that they will go wherever he goes. Some are calling him dad. Some are saying that they can't lose him. Things like that. And this is what PT thrives on. And this is what allows him to make these drastic decisions that he makes. So this is how the beginning of him manipulating his members in wanting to be with him in Nigeria starts. There was even a woman who has her own ministry called Betty, who is a reverend, and she's previously prophesied that Spac would go global. into Manchester and even other parts of the world. This got the crowd rallied up in excitement as they all heard this news at the Illet Conference Centre, which is where the service was held. And also PT will use his age to say that now that he's getting old, because he's going to be 40 soon, he needs to step away and allow for those younger than him and fitter than him to take the lead. This is why Spac has been split into two before. This is why they've done hashtags called 1,000 PTs. This is why the money for private jets has been put in place, which we hope they will never succeed in collecting. The reason why we compare Toby to Jim Jones, originator of the infamous The People's Temple based on Jonestown, is because although Toby doesn't have as much influence as Jim Jones, Toby still managed to get members to do crazy things for the cult and to please Toby. Similar sexual accusations have gone around. Both cults have also been able to recruit a lot of youngsters, with the People's Temple having a huge community impact with over 900 people on their side, and Spac Nation also having many on their side, despite not being able to retain those numbers. Toby would always dodge media critics, until as of recent where he reveals information only to tickle their ears, but never the full truth, or in their answer. But meanwhile, he would expand properly to his congregation about what he would want them to do for him. Jim Jones would also dodge media critics and go back to his congregation and tell them that they are the ones who are against what the People's Temple are doing. Spac would have people allegedly tell PT about things that they are not comfortable with but are still encouraged to do. And one thing they're advised not to do is leave, otherwise they'll end up getting shamed. With Jim Jones similarly, he would also say that there is many people who are against them, and there's only a few who he can really rely on. And Jim Jones would say this with a very sad and paranoid facial expression, as seen in the documentary on YouTube of this cult. Jim Jones would also abandon the Bible and speak his own knowledge and worldview on the pulpit too. Spac likewise has been criticised for the misuse of the Bible scripture, and PT would even be speaking about who he even dictates the standards of who a leader is supposed to be, or the training that one is supposed to have before getting ordained, basically referring to the 10-year-old minister Spac Nation has. And also Jim Jones from the People's Temple, once seeing that the pressure was getting too much, he announced that they should leave the US and lived in utopia amongst themselves, and how they do not need anyone. This was before the downfall, which ended up in a mass suicide of many families, and their families and friends in the US very upset. And even before they were worried because the People's Temple were too intrusive in their personal lives in the first place. Spac Nation also have their own flag, their own national anthem, their own way of praying in tongues, and have made a bubble for themselves too. PT, by the looks of it, is also trying to make a run for it to Nigeria, and this is with a private jet.
We want to buy a private jet, but the issue is we don't want those small ones. We want a Boeing 747. We need it for gospel and we need it for gold. We need a Boeing 747. We're going to strip it, and then it's going to be a large one so that many of you can travel with us. And that's what we're going to do. So we don't want the 5 million one. It's going to be too small. We strip it and then we rebuild it so that we can have fellowship. Thank you, Koza, because you will drive it. I want you to say a loud amen wherever you are now, Koza. You will drive it. You will be an investor in it. You're not just going to be a pilot. And of course, on it will be written loud and clear, Spac Nation. You will not just be a driver of vehicles. You will be an investor into it. You will own. On the wings will be written Spac Nation with the eyes of an eagle. It's going to happen. I'm not praying. You understand? I'm not praying. The plan is already there. Yeah. I'm not praying. I'm not praying. It will happen. And I do hope you'll be here when it happens. Otherwise, you will see it. You will see it at the terminals. So don't worry. I'm not going to prophesy that your eyes will not see it. Your eyes will see it. But I hope you're there, because it will happen. And it's not going to be one. And on many of them, one will have COD. That's their one. Another one will have elite. That's their one. I say, what do you need a private jet for? Maybe just to park it. You can just park it in the terminal and evangelize with it. And people pass by and say, what is elite family? What is the Pulse family? What is RBG? What is East Side?
So you guys just heard it from his own mouth, encouraging his members to buy a private jet. And he mentioned not a small one, a big one, so they can all travel together. If that's not a cult, then I don't know what a cult is. And you can see how he's very specific, naming all of the fellowships that are part of Spac Nation and fantasizing on how all of them will be able to have their own jet And he's telling them not to even pray about it because this is something that will happen. He's prophesying that this is something that will happen. PT and Jim Jones have very similar narcissistic characters. We believe that enough information has been disclosed for you to understand that this person that they call Pastor Toby is somebody who only cares about himself and his organization. Someone who would appear on top media channels and in the same breath he would also bash them. Likewise, he's the one who dictates everything and has an indirect hand in all they do. He will tell you about the Bible, what money means to him, and even fasting. He will dictate how to fast and not even follow Bible guidelines. And one of the things that Jim Jones did with his members is he encouraged them to empty their bank accounts to send him the money. A lot of his members sold their homes to give him the money, and this is where a majority of his wealth came from. And with PT, we also know he has encouraged his members at least once a year, where they have a month called Giving of All, where members empty all their bank accounts to give to him. And every week we have seen videos of pastors at Spac Nation demanding a certain amount of seeds. So we know that this is where his regular income comes from also. So everything that PT has done has been strategic for a long time. And he already knew that his destination was always going to be Nigeria, because that's the country he comes from. And this is the country he hasn't returned to for a very long time. Because now he established himself and he saved enough money to go back. But the greed is what has made him and encouraged him to behave in the same manner as Jim Jones, where now he knows having his members around him would allow him to have the same reputation and the same wealth that will follow him wherever he goes. The reason why we're so consistent in the videos of PT and Spac Nation is because we've seen the effects of what something like the People's Temple has done in America, and we know that prevention is better than cure. Plus, the government are trying their best, but however, since this is a problem which involves us on a community level, it is best we also as a community come out and expose the truth for the world to see and help us put an end to them. PT already has members who are waiting for him in Nigeria, so he thinks his return to his home country is set for him. Now we know this information. What are we doing about this? We need to act, strategize and pray, because it's something that cannot be spread any further. So we have given you all the information. We broke down every single thing about PT, about how he came to the country, the lies, the accusations, the businesses, the loans, the lines, the trap houses. We basically broke down every single key element that made Spac Nation a cult, and we felt like it was very important for you guys to see. So this is the finale of PT. Please make sure you watch and share. Make sure this episode and all of the recent episodes gets out to everyone that you know, because we cannot allow people to be subject under this corrupted man's rulership. Thank you for watching. So this was the exposing of PT Jim Jones.